It is Tuesday night before Thursday's Thanksgiving, and I've decided to go ahead and make like a few of my desserts earlier, so I'm getting ready to start my sweet potato pies. Now I have to boil my sweet potatoes into oblivion, and so I have about 50 minutes of just boil time where I'm going to use to listen to an audiobook. I'm also doing some cleaning in my living room, and so I'm going to listen to the audiobook for Rise of the Empire Book 4, which honestly is so much better than book 3 in terms of like things happening very early. Now at the end of book 3, something happened to one of my favorite characters, and I assumed that they had gotten captured. And when we came back in book 4, that same character was interacting with someone else, and they're being their usual selves, and I'm listening to the book and I'm laughing along with them, and I'm just like, you know what, I really love this character. And then I was like, wait, because if this character is here, then who was captured in the last book? So then I said, you know what? It's a problem for a later date. We'll get to that when we come to it. And then my character died. And I was just pissed because I would rather him had been the one who got captured, and then we could have worked out something in terms of freeing him. But now he's good and dead. And there was really no oomph to it. Like, he literally just died, and on the next page it was over. And I just expected his death to be more than that. I'm actually very upset about that. However, my homegirl Arista is kind of becoming a wizard, and I'm totally here for this journey. And so that's very exciting. So far though, no one has really come back from being dead in these books, so I'm not really holding out hope that he's magically going to rise from the ground. However, the fate of the world was in his hands, and so it would be nice if we can get a little resurrection. That would be nice. So I'm gonna go boil my sweet potatoes and I'll check back. Good morning, guys. It is the day before Thanksgiving, and with all the baking that I did last night and cooking breakfast this morning, I realized that I don't have enough eggs to make me through tomorrow. That means that we're still going to be sticking with our audiobook for Rise of the Empire because I have not had a chance to really sit down and read, and I'm hoping that that changes either tonight or tomorrow. It's probably very unrealistic to expect that I'm going to be able to read on Thanksgiving Day, but here's to hoping. I managed to listen to a good chunk of Rise of the Empire last night. I believe I have 4 hours left on audio, which would be about 2 hours because I listened on 2 times speed. I'm probably going to finish that as I go through my day because I am going to do some filming today. But book 4 is so freaking good, like so action-packed, so many things are happening. I love the journey that our characters are on, and I feel like Michael J. Sullivan is at this point where he's ready to like start killing off characters because I am nervous as to like, I know our characters are going to survive, or at least I hope that our characters are going to survive, but he really is doing a good job of making me think that, like, you know, they might be on their last lifeline. This is officially the 3rd vlog where I'm reading the Rhaenyra Revelations, and as you guys can tell from every vlog that I've uploaded so far that every book is so freaking good, and I'm just enjoying my journey so much. These definitely are like top favorite fantasies for me. It has inspired me to get back into my fantasy bag, especially like adult epic fantasy, so I'm in the mood for those types of books. However, for 2021, I had quite a bit of success reading from indie authors. I'm in the mood to look for adult high epic fantasy books, but from indie authors, because Dawn of Wonder is another book that really hit for me this year. And I know that there's one going around called the Ember Blade. I think that's independently published. I'm not sure, but maybe while I'm out I'll run to Barnes and Nobles and grab it. But I thought it would be cool to do a try a chapter tag because there's so many high fantasy books on like Kindle Unlimited that I am not confident enough to purchase. But I figured if I read a small percentage of it on my iPad and I like it, then I would probably be like more confident to go ahead and order it. So maybe that's one of the videos that I'll film today. I'm also in the mood for more fantasy romance, which is such a slim picking subgenre, but I have two fantasy romances that I plan to read soon that I'll include in this vlog. The first one is called The Zodiac Academy, and the second one is called A Court of Ash and Honey, which sounds like so cliche for all the fantasy romances there are in this world, but those are the two that we're gonna try in this vlog, and hopefully they're successful. But maybe I'll also check out fantasy romances on Kindle Unlimited while I'm looking for epic fantasies. So far, Rise of the Empire is doing everything that I needed to. It is keeping me very intrigued, very interested from Theft of Swords. It's a really good sequel, and I have even greater expectations for the next book, which is going to be the last one, or the last one in this trilogy. And then I get to read the Rhaenyra Chronicles, and then there is the prequel, which is, I think the first book is called Age of Myth, and those are 6 books. And I ordered all 6 in hardback from Michael J. Sullivan's website, and they come signed by him. And for the price that I paid to get all 6 in hardback and to have them all signed by him is, to me, a really great deal, and I'm very excited about that, because even trying to get them on like third-party sellers like Amazon or Barnes and Nobles, you can either get the mass market paperback, which I don't like reading from those, they're super small, and I love this series enough to go ahead and like get them in hardback, but you can only get them consistently from his website, which I'm not mad at because I love personally supporting him. And so yeah, I'm super excited to get those. I will start reading those immediately. But maybe I'm in the mood for like a standalone fantasy. I don't know. I don't know if I want to jump into another series, because between Michael J. Sullivan and Joe Abercrombie, I'm very busy in terms of series right now. So maybe I'll be looking for standalone epic fantasies. I just finished listening to Rise of Empire, and I'm having a hard time putting my feelings into words, I guess. I don't like the method that I chose this time, because for Theft of Swords, I was very submersed in the book. I annotated, I was really involved with just like my reading experience totally. While I did still enjoy the book, and I do feel like I would give the book 5 stars if I was going to rate it, I don't like the change in my reading method, and I feel like it took away from the amount of like enjoyment that I could have had in the story. Not that the audiobook is bad, it's just once I start reading a series a certain way, I feel like I'm accustomed to that, and I wish that I would have done that for this book as well. In this book, we saw so many like additional plot points in the story, and I do like where our characters are. I like the way Michael J. Sullivan creates villainous characters, because they always seem to be 1 to 2 steps ahead of our main characters. And then our main characters, like I told you guys in the first vlog, they're very intuitive. They have this way of just going with their gut. They're not the most intelligent characters, but I don't mind that, because once things do become like clear to them and apparent to them. I like the way they react to things and the way that they use their intuition to guide them. Overall, that's a really cool dynamic to watch, where we have these villainous characters that are like planning all these different things and how they overlap with the entire story. Then again, each book is a volume that contains 2 separate stories, and it's really like masterful how all these things come together. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, while I do feel like if I was to rate this book, I would probably give it 5 stars, I feel cheated in my enjoyment of it. So I'm going to read it again. This time I'm going to read it the same way that I read Theft of Swords, because objectively this book was better. Rise of Empire is a better book than Theft of Swords. However, I enjoyed Theft of Swords more. And that lets me know that it's not the book, it's the way that I read the book. And that's totally fine. But however, like I said before, Rise of Empire is a really good book, and so far Michael J. Sullivan has gotten better with each book. There's so much to digest because we have our overall plot that's been happening since book 1 that drives us forward. It's basically this church trying to consolidate power within this world, and they basically want to unite all the kingdoms under one rule, which is the rule of the church, and they're willing to put forth a fake heir in order for them to do so. And then from that overall theme, each book has small plot points where things happen that don't necessarily tie to the overall plot, but somehow I feel like in the end it's all going to make sense and come together. So there's just so much happening within this story on different like levels. This is going to be an immediate reread for me, but for this vlog we're going to continue on, and I'm gonna pick up The Blade itself, and I'll be reading that until I fall asleep tonight. I've been told that like I need to read The Blade itself with the audiobook because those in conjunctions with one another just really enhances the reading experience, and I don't want to make the same mistake that I just did, which is starting physically with Theft of Swords and then switching to audio for Rise of Empire. So I'm going to try the audio for The Blade itself tomorrow while I'm doing my Thanksgiving cooking, and I feel like I would be able to listen to a good chunk of them. Started The Blade itself last night, and I have a few rants. First of all, I don't know what this book is about. I don't know why there's nothing but blurbs on the back, and I just wanted to believe, like I wanted to hope that it would just be in the book for some reason. The first couple of pages of this book, I kid you not, is nothing but blurbs about how glorious it is. There's like 5 pages of blurbs, as if the entire back of the book isn't already nothing but blurbs. That made me very angry, but it's whatever, because I don't need to know what the book is about anyway. I could just read it. It was just like, wow, like y'all really don't want me to know what the book is about. If I'm in the store, how am I going to purchase a book that I don't know nothing about? And when I am in the bookstore personally, I don't have my phone with me. Like, it's too much work to go back and forth between the shelves and Goodreads and the shelves and Goodreads. Like, I don't shop with Goodreads. Goodreads is not my shopping buddy. So that was kind of annoying, but whatever. Started it last night. The first couple of pages were very weird. The writing felt very like rudimentary, but that's not a problem because it was easy to follow. It's just in some points it was redundant, and like he said multiple things twice. There was what I suppose is humor on the page by the characters, but it really felt flat when I was reading it, which I imagine is why people tell you to read it in conjunction with the audiobook. And just like with The Martian, which I really didn't like, the audiobook kind of brought to life the personality, and I'm expecting it to do the same thing for The Blade itself when I start listening to the audio today. But yeah, just the first 20 or so pages was kind of rocky. However, it was disgustingly gory. It was cringely brutal, and I love that. I love that. The chapters were really short, and so I found myself not wanting to put the book down because like each chapter was like 3 pages long. I made it not far into the book because I had to get up this morning to cook. So we're on page 65, and yeah, I have no clue what this book is about. Another thing that made me violently angry, now this took the cake because this is when I went to bed because I was just so damn mad. Even beyond there being no synopsis on the book or anything to tell me what the book is about, we're following 3 different characters and their initial background is totally different from one another. Like it seems like they're in different countries. And so right about like 50 pages in, I said, you know what? I don't know how these characters relate to one another because we have one that seems to be like in this secret order with an inquisition. We have another who is in these mountains and it's like freezing snow. And then we have another one who seems to be like in a town and he's like training to go into this like swordsmanship competition. I don't know. It just was very polarizing every time we switch POVs. And so I thought, well, let me go look at a map. As I just showed you guys, there is no map. There's no map. Very interesting marketing choice to hype the hell out of this book with nothing but blurbs and don't even give us a map. Like fantasy books come with maps. That's just it. That's ice and water. Fantasy book map. Everybody seems to have figured it out. Except. So yeah. Don't know what this book is about. Don't know really how our characters will matter with one another. There's one interesting character named Logan, and he seems to be this badass like fighter, but he also seems like dirty and grungy and like, I don't know. He's described as kind of like savage or like, I almost want to say barbaric. Yeah, he seems very barbaric and he fights barbarically and is very brutal. And I do enjoy that. But this spirit or like ghost, again, don't even know what the fantasy aspect of this book is, but he got high smoking something from a tree in the blizzard. And these spirits came to talk to him. But mind you, he was high. And the spirit said, yo, there's this wizard looking for you. And he said, cool, I'm gonna go to the wizard. And I'm gonna sit outside in the snow with no food and no clothes, and my shoes have like flaps in them. But I'm gonna sit outside in the snow and I'm gonna wait for this wizard. This man is too easygoing, you know? Like spirits that come to you when you're high and you go around listening to them. Suspicious behavior. Very suspicious. Now that I have a feel for the book, I would like to have read at least 100 or 150 pages before going into the audio, but time is not on my side. So we're going into the audio now, and I know that I complained a bit, and those things really did grind my damn gears. I'm still enjoying the book though, like, still very brutal. It is 8 o'clock at night. Thanksgiving is finally over, and I have listened to enough of the audiobook to put me at part 2, which starts exactly at 200 pages. So we listened to just short of 150 pages on audio today. So far, absolutely nothing has happened. I still have no clue what this book is about. I still don't really know how our characters will matter to one another. There is a really cool wizard aspect, which seems promising because usually any book that has a wizard or like a sorcerer in it gets 4 or 5 stars from me. That aspect alone makes me more invested in the story. But I cannot say what this book is about. And then I tried to go to Goodreads today because I said, well, clearly I have no other choice. So I went to Goodreads, and Goodreads, all it does is describe the 3 characters and the wizard that we're following. It does not tell us what this book is about. And the one thing that I am getting is a lot of like political movement and political intrigue, and there seems to be this war brewing between different kingdoms. However, I don't have a map, and what's north to one character may be south to another character, and so it's really hard for me to follow the different kingdoms and like the different parts of this world. Honestly, not putting a map in this book was like the biggest L, because the only thing we have to go off is the international relations between different parts of this world, different rulers, different kingdoms. But here's the thing: we have one area that has a king, we have another area that has an emperor, and then we have another area that's like a self-appointed king. I'm not really sure. It's just nothing is consistent, and it's honestly making me kind of angry. I dislike that a lot. For nothing to be happening for the past 200 pages, I'm still quite invested, and that is a talent within itself. Like I mentioned earlier, there are some very bloody, gory scenes, and I feel like the writing is just simplistic enough for it to convey vivid imagery of like skulls cracking and blood spilling out and like splattering over people. That part is definitely very gripping, and it makes you more invested in the book. There is one more aspect that I'm a little confused about, because I don't know what this book is about, like I said, and we have these creatures that only one part of the world, or like only one set of characters, talks about, and it gives me like White Walker vibes from Game of Thrones. It seems inhuman. They seem to be not natural, but they're almost described as humans who have like gone mad. I'm not really sure, but yeah, they give me White Walker vibes from Game of Thrones, definitely. So far, our characters include Logan, who I think is kind of interesting. He's the person I described earlier as being quite savage, or actually the synopsis did say that he was barbaric, and I'm like, well, I definitely picked up on that when I was reading it. And then we have Glotta, who reminds me a little bit of Shafa from the Broken Earth trilogy, except he's a cripple and very, very violent, very gory, but I like his characters, so I'm invested in him as well. Then we have Baez, which is the sorcerer, and I like him. I like what's happening with him. He seems very calm, but also destructive in a lot of areas. And then the last character that we have is Giselle, and he seems to be like a knight, very self-absorbed, very selfish. I don't dislike him, but he's definitely not the one that's keeping me invested in this story. It's really weird how we've wasted 200 pages, if I'm being honest with you. Like, barely any world building has happened. Barely any character development has happened. We have established characters so that like I know who they are, and like I'm able to distinguish between them, but I do not know enough about them to be able to like predict their moves or to see any type of trends or character arcs that they may go through in the future. So that's really not a thing. So without a plot and without world building and without really character development, I can't really put into words what happened in these 200 pages and what they're actually about, yet I am interested, and it doesn't make any sense. And maybe I'm just interested in how gory it is. The best way that I can describe these 200 pages is like jumping into a world and being a fly on the wall. That's literally what it feels like. Like, I am a fly on the wall, and he's not bothering to explain anything, to introduce me to anything. There probably is foreshadowing, but not to the point where I'm like, okay, this is going to be important later, and this is going to matter later. Like, I am just a peeping Tom into this world. So I do want to mention that the audiobook is really good, and I would actually suggest listening to the entire trilogy on audio because it is just that good. But for me, my reading experience when I read it physically was not better. However, it was just as good. And so I'm in the mood to kind of do a 50-50 with this, where I listen to audio and I read physically. So that's probably the game plan for that. I am taking a break from that book, and I'm going to check out A Court of Ash and Honey, and hopefully I don't have to DNF it and return it to the store. I have no clue what this book is about, as usual, and there is a synopsis on the back of this book, so that's the thing. I'm probably gonna try to knock out 75 to 100 pages of this, and I'll let you guys know if it's going back to the store. 12 minutes ago, I told you that I was gonna read 75 to 100 pages of A Court of Honey and Ash. I have lied to you, and I owe you a sincere apology. because this is going back to Barnes and Nobles. I read 9 pages and I knew on page 3 that this was gonna go back to the store. I even put the receipt in the book as like a bookmark because I knew that this was a risky purchase from the beginning. We're gonna return this. What I did get in those 8 pages is that we have this main character named Allie, who is a half human, half fake creature, and she has to compete in these trials to be a real member of the Unseelie Court, or else she'll be cast out and she won't have any connection to her fey heritage. And there's that. And we open with her in this competition to try to gather these coins while being chased by a dragon. And there's teammates that are kind of like a family for her because they're just a bunch of like outcast, half fae, half human creatures that no one really cares about, and they don't have any family to vouch for them. And they were leaning on each other for most of the tournament, except now they're trying to do like a process of elimination, so they're making it harder. And so there's less coins in the game than there are people, and it has to become every man for himself. I tried to jump ahead a couple pages, which I never do. I jumped all the way to like the last chapter and just tried to like see if it was ever gonna grip me. This is going back to the store. Hi, hello. It is Sunday. I believe that the last time that I talked to you guys may have been Friday or Thursday night, which is crazy. I spent all day yesterday reading and editing, and I honestly just forgot to update this vlog. Last time that we talked, I was reading The Blade itself, and I had just reached part 2. I am now 380 pages out of 500, so I have 120 pages left of The Blade itself. Totally doable for me to finish today by focus. And so far, last time I told you that nothing had happened. Same. Honestly, same. Nothing has happened. Mina told me that the plot of this book does not actually start taking off until the last 70 pages. And since I have 120 pages left, that means I have about 50 more pages of nada. Looking forward to that. Honestly, I like the book, but nothing occurred at all. The only thing that we got in the book was international relations, like I said earlier, between an empire, a union, a self-appointed king, and again, there's some White Walker-esque type people that are existing elsewhere. There's also this kind of like weird, ominous, or like sinister thing that's happening in the background about like eating the flesh of men. I don't know if that's causing a curse or anything, but I still feel like I'm just a peeping Tom into this world, and honestly, like I should just be minding my damn business. Like I don't even go here. That's how I feel. And with that being said, right now it's currently a 2-star. Not because it's bad. A 2-star for me is like, it was okay. I enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. But I can't honestly see myself giving this 4 or 5 stars when nothing happens. I mean, literally nothing. Nothing. So I'm hoping that in book 2, I'm completely mind blown, and all of a sudden I'm going to be like, he was foreshadowing the entire time. I'm really hoping that this is one of those situations. So far, this is a prequel, a very simple prequel. There's that. I got restless with The Blade itself yesterday, and I decided to give it a break and try to read something else. And so I ended up going to get book 1 in the Cradle series, which is going to be Unsold. And I started reading that. I'm currently 45% into the book. Now, like, I knew going into book 1 that the writing was really not good and that the world building was excessive and the beginning was very info dumpy. But this is like a huge indie author series. Everybody talks about Cradles. Everybody loves Cradle. There's currently 9 or 10 books out, and it's planned to be 12. I think Will White, the author of this series, is like one of the highest paid indie authors out. I know that every time a new Cradle book comes out, it debuts at #1 on Amazon. The last time I checked, it was in front of Dune. Like, Cradle was higher than Dune on Amazon, and that's a pretty big deal. So I was willing to go into this book just to like give myself a break from the Blade itself and just try it and stumble through the beginning of the book. Now, with that being said, even with me anticipating that the beginning of book 1, or just book 1 in its entirety, was going to be rocky, it was rough, guys. It was really rough. The beginning is excessively info dumpy, like very info dumpy. I don't even know what I could compare this magic system to, because there's like this aura that they use from like the environment, I guess. It's called Madra, and it's like spirit. I don't even know what it's really like, but the Madra, or like the aura, they channel into themselves, and then they use it to do different things. And each Madra, like your Madra is something that you're born with. Everything has it: trees, plants, animals, people. They choose a path, and the path is kind of like a path of discipline, and they follow it and basically just try to increase their skills as like this sacred artist of the Madra. And so far there are like 3 paths that we've talked about, but our main character follows the path of the white fox, I believe. Yeah, they follow the path of the white fox, and basically it is just this way of it is this sacred art that they study. And then within each path there are different levels. So everyone starts off at the foundation stage, and then there is the copper, iron, jade, and then the highest level you can go in like a mortal life is gold. But so far no one has really reached that level, the highest, like even the patriarch of each clan, because we are within a clan and there are 3 clans that compete with one another. As complex as that sounds, you get hit with that like within the first 10 pages of this book. It is excessive world building and extremely info dumpy. Like, I was just reading the words, and honestly I was just like, this is a lot of information. I just got here. This is the first day of class, and we're already preparing for a final, not even a midterm. Like, this is final level information, and I just got here. I'm new here. So that was very annoying. Even with me being prepared, I was still not prepared. We have this kid that we're following named Lyndon. Lyndon was born without true Madra, I guess you could say. Like, he's considered an unsouled, because your Madra is like attached to your spirit, or like attached to your soul. And if you don't have the ability to like really utilize Madra, then you're considered unsouled. And he's basically this humiliation to his clan, and he's desperate to prove himself. One thing I didn't explain is that even when you like are tested for your Madra abilities, you can become a forger, you can become a scriber, you can become, like, there's different paths even within the path of like discipline. Everybody takes on like different actual schools of thought. And again, like, this is extremely info dumpy, and I don't even know how I'm able to explain it to you right now. But yeah, so he was tested and it didn't respond to him, and so he's considered unsouled. He's humiliated by his clan, and so he's very desperate to come up and like to be able to study a sacred path, and they will not allow him to. They're telling him that it's extremely dangerous for a unsouled to follow a sacred path, because he does not have the magical ability or like the stamina to withstand or handle any of the things that he would be dealing with. At this point, he's been grasping at straws to try to earn the honor of studying one of these sacred arts. This book reminds me so much of anime shows that I've watched, and I'm not even like a huge anime show watcher, but it truly gives off like the underdog you know, get beat up time and time again, Goku. Some parts of like how they actually do the magic when they're battling reminds me of like Avatar. Like, it's just very anime-esque in the book, which has been pretty interesting to watch. Now, when I got to like the 45% mark in the book, like just about halfway within the book, something drastic has happened. And I honestly can't believe that at this point I understand the way the world is set up even just a little bit. Like, I know enough about the hierarchy and the skills and the disciplines to know that shit just hit the fan. And I'm nervous that our main character might even be dead. And I'm just like, were we only following him for the beginning of the story? I'm not sure. Like, if I knew nothing about the series, I would honestly think that Will just killed off our main character. So I just stopped right there because I couldn't believe that. There is another, like at the end of these chapters, there are these kind of like report complete and analysis complete little sentences. And it reminds me a little bit of like what you get in Illuminate when you're reading it. So I honestly don't know what's happening in this book. I don't know if we're in the present. I don't know if we're in the past. I don't know if there's people with like high level technology that's studying these sacred clans in this sacred valley. It's very confusing, but it is only 280 pages and I am halfway through the book. And so that means I have like 140 pages left to go. And I read a little faster on ebook, so I feel like that's doable. So today, between the 120 pages we have of the Blade itself and the 140 pages we have of Cradle, that puts us at 260 pages this good Sunday for me to finish this vlog. It is officially Monday. I did manage to squeak out finishing both books yesterday at like 2 o'clock in the morning because the day just kind of got away from me. But it was a successful week of reading because I finished both books yesterday. The first book that I ended up finishing was The Blade itself. The ending of this book was actually really good. There is one particular chapter that has been replaying in my head ever since I read it. And I've actually gone back to physically read it 3 times because it's resonating with me, and that is the chapter that's called Nobody's Dog, and it's a scene between West and his sister Artie, and it gets very violent. And of all the action-packed scenes that happen toward the end of this book, for some reason that is the chapter that just had me like so filled with emotions. I actually cried like the second time that I read it because I actually finished this book without audio, and so when I was reading it, that chapter really hit me. And then I read it again, and then I played it on audio, and that just like, I was actually very emotional. That scene between that brother and that sister was so very uncomfortable, very vicious, very brutal, violent, but of all the things that happened in this book, that one alone really stuck with me. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I did enjoy the ending. I'm a very character-driven reader. I enjoy political-based plots. I enjoy following our characters, and I actually don't need a lot of action. This book did give action, but it lacked in all other areas, and ultimately nothing happened for the entire book. I think it's a good, slow introduction to an adult fantasy, and for that reason I would recommend it. I will be continuing with the books. I expect to be like blown away with the books going forward because Joe Abercrombie doesn't seem like an author who's afraid to give you action, who's afraid to pull stops and punches. Like, this book felt like me getting to know Joe and the characters and the world, and I'm looking forward to like further explanations. I hope that we get more explanations as I start reading the other books. I'm still continuing with the series. I did enjoy it. It's just there was nothing here. Like, it was just an empty read. I still, for the most part, felt like a peeping Tom into this world. I never felt like I was really invited by the author. And because of that, it just felt like looking through a looking glass and not actually being involved in the story. And I'm hoping that that changes as we get into book 2. I also finished Cradle, and I ended up giving this one 2.5 out of 5 stars. After the 50% mark, there was this drastic shift in the writing, and it felt like the author like wrote half the book, left for a little bit, and came back after taking like writing seminars or writing classes because it felt entirely different. Our main character reminded me a lot of Barrow from the Jade City series because he is very relentless on his quest to rise in his like power ability, and the The author basically sets up this world that is extremely based on honor, and within the 3 clans, they do everything by honor, and that's all you have to stand on. And their honor becomes a hindrance at some point because everyone within this sacred valley has a significant amount of pride, and our main character, Lyndon, is not afraid to use that to his advantage. Because he was born weak to those in his community, and that's how they see him, he doesn't have any honor. And because he doesn't have any honor, he has nothing to lose, because the only thing you can lose in the Sacred Valley is honor. And he doesn't really care for that. And so he is willing to cheat, scheme, connive his way to the top. He does not care about winning fair and square. And there are some moments in the book where you get to see him deal with the consequences of his actions. And for a good part of the book, I was actually unsure if I actually wanted him to win. Like, sometimes when he would do stuff, a lot of his scheming, like, I'm not a fan of Barrow in the Jade Legacy series, and like those moments where I felt like this is something that Barrow would do. Like, he gave me like unkillable rat, can't catch roach kind of vibes, and I was just like, yeah, I don't know if I agree with this. And so getting to see moments where he had to suffer because of some of his decisions were pretty interesting to me, pretty satisfying for me. I do also enjoy that the author, with all of the very clunky world building and info dump in the beginning, he established the fact that the Sacred Valley is very much stuck in their ways of honor and glory, and that they have too much pride to actually see how they can be better. He also does a good job of using that to showcase how people in the valley are small-minded, and they have a very small outlook on the world, and the world is so much bigger than what they believe it to be. And again, Lyndon is a character that's coming to realize that I don't have much room for growth in the valley, and so I need to grow outside the valley. I need to expand beyond the valley. While he doesn't have much strength and power, that has nothing to do with a person who's willing to plan and who wants it more than the other person, so much so that they are willing to like get rid of their pride and honor to do it. A win is a win, even if you didn't win fair and square. And it was interesting to watch Lyndon manipulate those situations, because the Sacred Valley is so stuck on honor and doing things the right way that they have this system where they don't ever think about somebody cheating, because everybody's so stuck on doing it an honorable way and earning their powers and going through the motions, that when Lyndon's actually like cheating, it doesn't necessarily count as cheating a lot of the time, because they never bother to put forth a rule. It's kind of like this unspoken rule that you just do everything by honor. And Lyndon is, like I said, slithering in and out of the boundaries and operating in complete gray areas. So that was very interesting to watch. While I enjoyed the end of this book, the first 50% was really cringing and really clunky and just tangled. And that's just too much of the book. The book is only 280 pages, and the first 130, 140 is very tangled. And because of that, it was just too much to overlook in terms of my rating. I will be continuing with the Cradle books. I have seen the author get better within the writing and the world building within just the first book, so I expect it to continue as I go on with the series, and I do suspect that I am going to enjoy them. I don't know if I'm ever gonna love Lyndon's character, but nonetheless, he is an interesting character to watch. I don't necessarily have to like my main characters for me to continue reading a series, but I do wonder if I will ever come to appreciate his very manipulative and conniving ways. All in all, this was not the best reading week for me. I would have given Rise of Empire 5 stars, but again, I felt cheated on my reading experience for that. So after this vlog ends, I am going to be going back to reread that completely and like getting my coins, getting my full money's worth from that book, because I know what Michael J. Sullivan can put forth, and I want that experience. And again, we gave The Blade itself 3 stars and Cradle 2.5, but for Goodreads standards, we ended up giving it 2 stars. And so yeah, hopefully next week is a much better reading week for me. Besides the ratings, because I hate having to put stuff in numbers because it doesn't really convey my true feelings, I would still recommend both books. If you're thinking about trying Cradle, just have the expectation to at least give that book to the 60% mark, because the first 50% is not the best that the author has to put forth. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.